Hey guys, it's me Lainey, welcome to another video. Lately there's been quite a discussion going around on Booktube and I thought I would be an idiot and throw myself in there as well. This is the first time I'm doing any kind of discussion video, so please don't kill me. All this discussion kind of stems from people's need for more variety here on Booktube. People want more variety on Booktube because they think there's too much YA on Booktube and not enough representation of adult fiction and things like that. And people have been saying that to create more variety, we need to read more adult books, and people have started putting these booktubers into boxes like YA booktuber and non-YA booktuber, and today I just want to talk about why I don't agree with that. I'm putting myself on dangerous ground. I just wanted to talk about two specific things based on my own experience. The first thing is regarding the difference between young adult and adult, and the second thing is regarding how these demographics affect variety on Booktube. And before I start saying anything, I just want to make it clear that I understand people that want more variety here on Booktube. I'm going to spend the entire rest of this video talking about how to create more variety, but I just want to get it out of the way that if you don't read a variety of books, that's totally fine. I don't consider myself as someone who reads a variety of books, and that is a-okay. But I totally understand that there are people who want more variety. So let's get into the video. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the difference between young adult and middle grade and new adult and all those demographics. So here's a little experience that I had lately. So when I would go to a bookstore, I would look around at, for example, the young adult section, and I would think to myself, why do they not have this specific series? I would be looking for a specific series and then I wouldn't be able to find it and such. And it wasn't until a while later that I realized that these series were actually placed in the adult section instead of the young adult section. I have seen the Grisha trilogy, the Lunar Chronicles, Six of Crows, Falling Kingdoms in the adult section, but also sometimes in the young adult section. Books like Wonder, Harry Potter, the Lockwood & Co. series, everything by Rick Riordan. I've seen those books both in the middle grade section, but in other stores in the young adult section. Also, if you look at the age range that people talk about when, for example, talking about young adult, I know from a lot of American booktubers in America, the age range for young adult is about 12 years old until 18 years old, if I'm correct. Whereas, for example, in the Netherlands, young adult is considered 15 and up. But sometimes when I go into a bookstore, young adult would be classified as 13 and 14-year-old. Basically what this shows is that the difference between adult and young adult can be incredibly vague. There are no harsh lines between these different demographics, and I think that when we start talking about young adult booktubers and non-young adult booktubers, we are creating these lines that don't exist and really don't need to exist. I think that judging the variety of a booktuber's reading by the demographic of books that they are reading is not necessarily a good idea because it is so vague. I recently thought of an example for this. Like, say that these are the books that you've read in a month. Let's just pretend that you are just as slow as a reader as me and have only read 3 books in a month. So this would mean that you've read a middle grade book, a young adult book, and an adult book. So looking at it that way, that means you've read a variety of books this month. But on the other hand, you could argue that all of these books are actually YA books and appeal to the young adult audience. So looking at it that way, that would mean that you did not read a variety of books. What I'm trying to say is that if you focus so much on whether a book is young adult or adult, I don't think you can very specifically say if this person is a varied reader or not, and that by saying this person mostly reads young adult or this person mostly reads non-young adult, you can't immediately say if they read a variety of books or not. Like, instead, you could look at it this way. You've read a contemporary, you've read a dystopian, and a fantasy book. So that means you've read a variety of genres, which means you've read a variety of books this month. You can even look at it this way. You've read a pretty underhyped book that no one really talks about. You've read a book that no one has really talked about since ages ago. And you've read a new release that is pretty hyped up. So looking at it that way, you could say that because you talked about some books that not everyone is talking about at the moment, you are contributing to more variety on the input on Booktube. all regardless of what demographic of books that you have just read. Basically what I'm trying to say with this is that I don't think it's good if we put so much focus on whether a book is adult or young adult, and instead should just look at the individual books. And now the second thing that I want to talk about is the effect of these labels on variety. So here's another experience that I've had. When booktubers are talking about the books that they've just read, sometimes they would be like, this is an adult book about blah blah blah, or this is a young adult book about blah blah blah, this is a middle grade book about blah blah blah. And sometimes they would not mention the demographic. It's completely random. Some people do it, some people don't. There's not really a reason behind it, I think. And up until a few months ago, I have to admit that I was that person that whenever someone said, this is an adult novel, or this is a middle grade novel, I will be like, oh no, that's not my thing. I don't want to read that. Which is completely stupid. I don't know where that idea came from because I barely read any middle grade and adult novels, but for some reason I had this idea that adults and middle grade were not my thing. But like I said, sometimes booktubers don't mention the demographic. I ordered some books that sounded pretty interesting to me, and I read them, and I really enjoyed them, and a while later I realized that these books that I had just read were actually classified as adult books. I didn't even notice that much of a difference, and I also had to admit to myself, if this booktuber had mentioned that it was an adult book, I might not have bought it just because of that prejudice. And I noticed that if booktubers don't mention what demographic a book is, I don't focus on that demographic and instead just look at whether the book sounds interesting to me or not. And I know that there are many people out there that have prejudices against these demographic, like middle grade, it's too easy, young adult, it's too dumb, or adult, it's too boring. So instead of focusing so much on the demographic of a book, I think it's so much more important if you just think, hey, does this book sound interesting to me or not? Without thinking, oh, this book is YA, so I don't think I like it, or this book is adult, so I don't think I'll like it. But just keep an open mind, because like I just said, some adult books can also be classified as young adult books and vice versa. So it's really hard to judge a book by its demographic because it's so vague. So in conclusion, what I'm trying to say, if we want more variety on BookTube, I think it's more important to just look for people who talk about books that you've never heard about. What's been going around on BookTube right now is that people have been saying, oh, we need more variety, so here are a lot of booktubers that read adult books. And yes, I totally understand that because young adult is so popular, reading adult books will add variety to BookTube, but adding variety to BookTube does not solely consist of reading adult books. It's kind of the same principle as the grass is always green, but not everything that is green is grass. There are many different ways of adding variety to BookTube. I think that if we start labeling booktubers as adult booktuber, young adult booktuber, we are creating this gap between the different demographics and also between these booktubers, even though there isn't really a gap, and a gap is really not necessary. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to get across in this video is that I think we should stop focusing so much on whether a book is young adult or adult, because if you are of the age that you can know for yourself what kind of content is appropriate for you, then I think you can stop focusing on demographic as a whole and just read whatever sounds interesting to you. Just focus on the synopsis. Hey, does this sound like something for me or not? Instead of dismissing certain books just because it's YA or adult or new adult or middle grade or whatever demographic there is. And I can totally understand that if you just read whatever sounds interesting to you, this may result into you mostly reading one demographic, and that is totally fine. What really matters is that you are not shielding yourself off from other demographics, and just keep an open mind to whatever books, as long as we don't judge people by the demographic they read. Because like I've said a gazillion times right now, the difference is so vague. I really hope this video made sense. It's very difficult to film a discussion video, I now realize. Basically, looking at... I can't put myself into words. How do I English? What am I even trying to say. I really hope you can't hear my stomach growl. So instead of ending this video by recommending some booktubers that are considered adult booktubers, because I don't want to put that label on them, I am going to recommend some booktubers that I consider for right readers, because when I watch their videos, I always hear them mentioning books that I have never heard about before. And I will leave them in the description. Leave a comment, let me know what you think on the whole variety discussion. And if you have different opinions than me, that's totally fine. Leave a comment. I'm totally open for discussion and everything. I hope you got something out of this video, and I will see you soon with another one. Goodbye!